Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm super excited. Welcome to the Driven Moms Answering Adversity interview series, Stories of Success Through Setbacks from Mom Elevated. Together, we can shine a light on how normal challenges and struggles are, along with how we can overcome and rise above them. And today we have Katie to share her story with us. So if you wouldn't mind taking it away and telling us briefly about your story to get us started.
Sure, sure. So my name is Katie, as you mentioned. I am a podcast host. I have a podcast called Mom on the Verge. I am a Dharma life coach. We can talk about what that means in a little bit. I'm also a nurse and a yoga teacher. So I wear many, many different hats. I'm a mom of two. My daughter just turned 16 in September, and my son will be turning 11 actually this Saturday. So they're getting big. They're getting really big. And it's been a super fun journey as a parent, but also a really challenging one. We've had a lot of stuff on our journey of parenting. So but it was that stuff that motivated me to start my own business and my own podcast and do all the things that I'm doing. So we can talk about that too. But that's basically who I am. I'm a dog lover. If you count dogs, I have a third child, my dog Hunter, who I adore. And I'm a huge nature lover. I spend as much time in nature as possible. Love music, love yoga, obviously, and I love cooking. So those are just kind of my hobbies outside of what I do.
That's amazing. Also, happy
Yeah.
early birthday to your son. That's fantastic.
Thank you.
And
Thank
in
you.
September. My birthday is September 17th, and my son's is September 13th. So,
So my daughter is September 17th and I'm September 14th. Ah,
it's,
Virgos unite.
I love it. That is fantastic. I
Awesome.
feel like
Yeah.
that might be why we have similar energies.
Yes, probably.
That is fantastic. And also, yes, dogs count. 100% dogs.
Right? They
We
we
have a
really
dog
do.
and two cats, and sometimes I feel like they're more work than the kids. Uh,
Yeah, my dog had me up at 5:15 this morning. So yes, sometimes
nice.
they are wanting to go outside and back in and out. I don't know. Yeah, they
Yes.
are sometimes more work than the kids.
That is so funny. Well, I'm really excited to dive into Dharma and what that means.
Yeah.
But first, what adversity have you answered and how within this long journey? Because obviously, if you have one who is 16, you said,
Yes.
and in that, that's a long journey itself.
Right.
My son is 14, he's my oldest, and that alone has been a long journey. But what would you say, maybe not just adversity, because I feel like we all go through so much adversity, but maybe what is something that was like a pivotal moment where you're like, okay, this is a make or break moment.
Yes. So I guess it wasn't a one moment, but it was over the course of a couple of years. My daughter went through some very, very serious physical and mental health challenges. And we're still dealing with some of the physical health stuff. Thankfully, her mental health is doing very well now. But it was from the time she was 12 to about 15. We really went through the ringer with her. She was in a position where she was unsafe, and we had to get her to many different doctors, many different therapies and treatments, many different medications, including what's called a partial hospitalization program, which is a 5 day a week intensive 8 hour a day program. So it was a journey in and of itself, right? That was a journey in and of itself of the journey of parenthood. And it was in that journey. I was on my own journey of kind of awakening and really fully coming into myself, leading up to that because of some things that were going on for me personally related to my health. But when that happened, it was like the thing that broke me open, right? It was the thing that all of the other trials and tribulations and pressures that I was kind of like, all the plates, you envision all the plates, spinning plates in the air. I had all these spinning plates in the air and I was like, I got it. I got it. I'm doing it all. And then that happened. And it was like, okay, I have to let all the plates drop. All the plates have to drop. They have to crash around me and I have to buy new plates.
Yeah.
And so that was what a moment I would say that was really pivotal. That period of time was really pivotal for me, really broke me open, really put me on the path that I'm currently on. And I don't think I'd be where I am doing what I am doing right now had I not gone through that.
That's incredible. I want to dive into more of like how you answered that adversity, like how you got through that, but I also am like, have to ask you, because we have our middle one has a lot of, since she was 18 months old, we've had this, still no diagnosis of what is happening, but we've been going to PT, going to doctors, various places, and trying to seek answers and better support whatever is happening. I feel like it is an incredible journey of advocation, of not only advocating for them, but for yourself as well, and just learning so much of like, you know what? I went through something when I was younger that, I mean, our parents kind of were a suck it up buttercup type. And
Yes, yes.
like you just got through stuff, you just dealt with it.
Right.
And I was just talking to my husband last night about how there are so many things that I see within my middle daughter that I'm like, I wonder if I also was dealing with some of this, but we had no idea. And it wasn't, you didn't go down those rabbit holes. It just, you took it
Right.
at surface level, and that is what it was. So
Yeah.
I feel like the advocation part of it is huge in order to go on your own self-discovery journey and
Yeah.
also help them further so that hopefully they're not doing it when they're in their
Right.
30s and 40s.
Yeah. No, it's so true. And I don't know your age, but I also came from the suck it up buttercup generation. I just, as a very small example, I walked around on a broken foot for a week because my parents told me I was fine until they finally took me to get an x-ray and it was broken. Like that is, and my parents were good parents. Like that sounds like
Yeah,
horribly abusive, but it was just the way things were. They,
right.
you really weren't taken seriously for your complaints. And so you just stopped complaining because no one was really listening anyway. Um, and so, yes, I totally get that. And it is a huge world of advocacy. I mean, like I mentioned, she really went through the ringer with her mental health. She's still dealing with physical health struggles that we don't have any answers for, or we have kind of vague answers for, but we're not really sure that they're the right answers. And so once you enter the medical system, and I'm a nurse, I mentioned that in the beginning. So
Yes.
once you enter the medical system, it is a maze. You really have to advocate for yourself and your child on all levels. And sometimes you have to step out of the medical system. We've had to step out of the medical system. We still
Mhm.
see regular medical doctors for certain things, but we've also incorporated functional medicine doctors, naturopaths, acupuncturists, chiropractic. I mean, energy healers. I mean, it's very costly. It's very time consuming. There is a
Yeah.
lot of uncertainty when you're, doing these things, putting out money for things and spending time on things like going to have any significant impact on the way that she's feeling. But when your child is suffering, you'll do anything. As a mom, a parent who's watching their child suffer, you just don't stop. And I will never stop. And I tell my daughter that all the time. We will never stop. We will find answers. We will get you healthy. Um, you just have to be patient because the answers will come when they come. And I really firmly believe in following your gut as a mom
Yeah.
and taking, what the professionals have to say, listening, being open-minded, evaluating, weighing things that they tell you to do. But ultimately, I really just believe that we have this maternal intuition that is there for a reason, and really can guide the journey if you allow it to.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
think that's incredible. How did then Dharma and yoga and being a nurse, how did all of that come into play to help you actually answer that adversity and go through those challenges and
Yeah.
know when to
And
ask questions and when to trust?
yes, yes. I mean, my yoga journey was a huge part of that, because again, in the generation we were raised in, I don't, again, I don't want to make assumptions about your childhood, but kind of generally speaking, broadly speaking, the generation that I grew up in, you really were not taught to trust your intuition. You were really taught to look outside of yourself for answers, to your parents, to your teachers, to authority figures, to doctors, to whoever, was the authority figure. And so I lost my access to my intuition for a really long time. I didn't trust myself. That voice inside of me had gotten really small and really quiet, to the point where I could barely hear it as a whisper on occasion, right?
Yeah.
And when I started going through my own health journey, I it was a part of my awakening. It was the first part of my awakening. And I started going to yoga very seriously. I had always gone to yoga, but it was kind of in and out kind of thing. Like sometimes I go for a while and then I wouldn't. And I was only about the asana, only about the physical postures of the practice. I started taking really a deep dive into the entire practice, the 8-limb path of yoga, the philosophy, all of that. And a big part of that is reconnecting to self and the divine within and your intuition. And so I started on this journey even prior to what happened with my daughter. And everything I do believe happens in divine order and in divine timing. And so by the time what started to happen with my daughter started to happen, go down, I had already spent several years re-accessing that intuition
Oh, yeah.
and really strengthening what I call the muscle of intuition, of being able to hear it loudly and clearly. And so that really guided my path. The Dharma piece is a little separate. The Dharma piece is, and I guess we should describe Dharma, right, before we go on to that. So Dharma is, there's many levels of Dharma, but the Dharma that I'm talking about is called Sva Dharma, SVA Dharma. And it is sacred duty to self. It is your sacred duty to yourself. Okay. Now, there's actually many interpretations of the word Dharma. The word Dharma has been around for thousands of years. So it's been translated in many different cultures and traditions. But the two that I love are that one I mentioned, sacred duty to self, and on a broader kind of scale. So that's the Sva Dharma, that's personal Dharma. And then on the broader scale, the evolutionary impulse of the universe. So the universe has an evolutionary impulse, just like we know evolution has happened through the universe when it comes to animals and people and the planet and so on and so forth. This is kind of the energetic evolutionary impulse of the planet. And so I do believe things happen in divine order for all people at all times. We may not like the order.
Right.
We may not like what's happening, but my own personal health journey set me on a path of following my intuition, which allowed me to be there for my daughter in such a more profound way than I would have been able to have been had I not gone through that previously. So, but coming back to the Dharma piece, for years, I really felt like I was not living my soul's purpose. I didn't call it that at that time. I didn't call it Dharma. I just knew I felt like something was missing. I felt out of alignment. I felt like my life didn't like truly represent the internal me, that it didn't represent the most authentic version of me. I was checking all the boxes, right? I had a career, I got married to a wonderful man, I had 2 children, we bought a house, we got the dog, all the things, right? Check, 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 check. I was taking care of my kids really beautifully. Like I was very proud of the mother that I was, but yet there was still this internal whisper and nagging and pull saying, this is not all there is. There's more. And you're missing it. You're just not on the mark. And as much as I was, like I said, I was proud of the mom I was proud of the nurse that I was. We've been redoing our home gradually. I was proud of the home that we had. These are all beautiful, wonderful. I had nothing in my life to per se like complain about, but yet it was this churning inside of me that something was missing. But I ignored it for a really long time because I was busy. I was a mom, I was working, I was redoing a home. And I also didn't know what it was. I knew I had that feeling. And I used to say to my husband all the time, if I knew what it was, I would just do it. Right. I would just do it if I knew the answer. But all I know is I have this feeling that won't go away. It's so persistent. It's so painful, but I don't know where to turn and what to do. And then when my daughter went through everything that she went through, and through that process, I dove even deeper into all of my practices and into the philosophy of yoga and people would say to me, I don't understand, like, why don't you take a leave of absence at work? Like, how are you handling all of this? And I said, I'm handling it because of all of my practices. Like they are getting me through this situation. And they're giving me as much, it was so painful and hard. And of course, there were moments of doubt and confusion, but there was also this underlying knowing and peace. Like I knew she was going to be okay. Somehow I knew she was going to be all right. I didn't know how long it was going to take. I didn't know what the answer was going to be. I didn't really have any details. It was pure surrender. It was like, okay,
Yeah.
she's going to be okay. I'm going to take one step at a time that I feel called to take based on my intuition. And I hope it's shorter rather than longer, but I'm going to trust in the process. But it was very stressful, obviously. And I mentioned the spinning of the plates, and then the plates started to fall. And it was like all the things in my life that really weren't important, that I really thought I needed to do, but I didn't need to do. I just let them fall. I just let them drop. And then I was like, wow, like this is freeing, right?
Mm.
This is so freeing that I'm just letting these plates drop and nothing bad's happening. The world's not falling apart. I don't feel like a bad mom. I actually feel like a better mom. And it's creating this space, this internal space and space in my calendar to dive deeper into what I'm being pulled toward. And what I was being pulled toward was mind body practices, the yoga philosophy, that 8 limb path that I mentioned, to chanting, to breath work, to meditation, to all of these things. And so I just allowed it. It's really what I did. I just allowed it. I said, I'm going to let these things fall away that are not serving me. And I'm just going to turn towards my curiosity, towards whatever is making me lit up and excited and super curious. I'm just gonna, with abandon, go after it. And it was in that process that I found myself. And I found myself saying, like, wouldn't it be amazing if I could just have conversations about this stuff all day long? Like, that would be so, like, what, that would be such a great job. And I'm like, oh, wait, I could start a podcast. And wouldn't it, and then COVID hit. So that was part of the process. So I'm a nurse, COVID hit. And to me, where I was during that phase of my life with my daughter being really critical at that time,
Yeah.
I was like, COVID is the least of my concerns. Like, whatever, I'll go to work, I'll mask up, it's going to be fine. Like, I could not care less about COVID. I just went, I was homeschooling. We were major construction done in our house. My daughter was very ill. It was,
Be fine.
it was fine. But I saw around me the impact. Obviously, we all know that COVID had on people's mental health. I saw it
Mm.
amongst my friends, my coworkers, my patients, their family members. Like, it was a real pulling back of the covers moment, right? That this was there all along, but everybody was kind of getting by. You know, they were doing what we did in our generation, kind of shoving it under the rug, moving
Yep.
on and doing what they had to do, right, to function in their lives. And this was their thing that made them say, I can't do it anymore. I have to drop some of these plates, right? I have to actually like express what's going on inside of me.
Yeah.
And so looking around, seeing that, I thought, oh my gosh, everyone needs what I have. Everyone needs what I have learned. And I've learned these are ancient wisdom traditions. Okay. This is not my right. I didn't make this stuff up, but this is thousands of years of wisdom that I have been pouring myself into. And it is thousands of years old, and it is still incredibly pertinent and useful in today's world. In fact, probably like more today than ever.
Yeah.
And I thought, I have a duty. I have a sacred duty. I have a sacred duty to myself to continue on this journey and on this path of self-discovery and learning more and more and more about these traditions and philosophies and practices and so on and so forth. And I have a sacred duty because Dharma isn't just about self, it's about service to self, but
Okay.
also service to others. And because the overarching theme of Dharma is the evolutionary impulse of the planet. So I have a duty to myself to stand in my authenticity and my power, in my knowing, to serve myself, and so that I can serve others, so that we can all rise, right? All rising up. What is the expression? Rising tides lift all boats, right? We need
Yeah.
to rise together. And my part in that process is to bring this to the world, to bring this philosophy and make it digestible for people who are busy in their lives, because this is 2,000, 3,000 year old philosophy. Okay, it's like just trying to sit down and read the Bible, right? It's very
Yep.
dense. And so I feel like one of my gifts and one of my passions is to take this kind of old and dense wisdom, make it a little more concise, make it understandable, make it applicable to people's lives today so that they can take this wisdom, they can use it, they can have inner peace, they can come to their own Dharma, which I believe we are the most impactful when we are in our Dharma. And
Mm,
we could have a whole conversation, a whole hour on just what Dharma is. But
yeah,
the reason why I'm so passionate about it is because this world is facing some significant challenges, right? We are personally facing challenges, our society, our culture, the world is facing challenges. And the best way that we can start to solve those problems is to come to inner peace first, figure out who we are and what we were divinely designed to do in this world, and then do it in service to the world. And we will have the most impact. We will be the most creative. We will be the most collaborative. We will be the most joyful, peaceful versions of ourselves. And that's what the world needs, that people
yeah,
who are in their flow, they're in their zone, they're in their zone of genius. That's what we need. And we need to empower more people to be there. But you have to know yourself, right? It takes a
right.
getting to know yourself in order to even know what you were divinely designed to do. Because life and culture, this is a lot of layers on top of that Dharma,
Right.
right? A lot of layers that we now have to like pull back the layers and say, what was I really meant to do? Not what I think I should do because that's what my mom and dad wanted me to do, or because that's what society considers to be acceptable or
Right.
respectable, or because have some idea that if I don't do X, Y, or Z, I'm a bad mom, I'm a bad wife, I'm a bad employee, I'm a bad person. What is it what's your internal pull? Where are you being pulled to serve and step into that in whatever way that looks like, right? So that can look like starting a business. It can look like just changing the parenting, the way you parent,
Yeah.
like parenting different than your parents parented. It could be volunteering. It could be the job that you're in now, but how you're relating to maybe your coworkers, or if you're a leader to, the people that you're leading. It can show up in so many different ways. So I'm very passionate about it. And I myself went through it and went through the pain of it. So now I want to help others to get there in a lot less time and a lot less pain than it took me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, right? I love that. I think it's beautiful. Also, you glow when you talk about it. No, it's amazing. I love the way you said that and how you started by saying that something was churning inside you. Like that is such a powerful just imagery. But being able to go from that and then realizing I like to talk about it as expectations that you shed, but I love that you're talking about, the plates that you're juggling and learning which ones you can let drop. And that really
Yeah.
does peel back the layers and allow you to be like, okay, this is fine. Like one of
Yeah.
the biggest things I think for me, my mom is a huge cleaner. She's very good at being clean. She's really fast at it. She's always wanting things to be tidy, and I am not the best at it. Part of it is like I have if I start somewhere, I'm gonna end up in a different room doing something else.
Yeah.
I'd like to think
Distracted.
I
Yeah.
might have some ADHD in there somewhere. Who knows? But I definitely have the mom thing where you start somewhere, you pick up somewhere else, you go somewhere, and then you come back out and go, that's what I was doing. That's
Yeah.
right. So it takes me a really, really long time, and I'm not as efficient at it as she is. So
Mhm.
letting go of that and shedding that,
Yeah.
knowing that she's going to come over and see the way I live
Yeah.
was a really big like moment, I think not only for me, but like for our relationship to be like, I'm not gonna be you. It's okay. You still love me. I still love you. This is great. If you want to clean when you come over, have at
Yes.
it.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
And isn't it amazing that I mean, I'm 46, and it took me probably till I was 40 to stop really caring about what my parents thought and like
Yeah.
performing in a way that would please them. a
Yeah.
40-year-old woman with 2 kids of my own, like, get out of here. Why do
Right.
we do this to ourselves? I don't know what it is, but it is, it really takes a level of consciousness and awareness and intention to
Yes.
let that go and stand on your own and know that your parents are going to love you anyway. And if they don't, then that's a whole separate problem that needs to be
Right.
not
Yeah,
clean.
that's a whole different issue.
Right.
I love
Mhm.
that. It is fascinating. I'll be 40 next year. So same thing.
Okay.
It was like 35, 36 when I finally started really getting into the personal development and really getting into like, okay, I can be me. I don't have to have these societal expectations, familial expectations. I can
Yeah.
shed that, let it go,
Yes.
learn what I want for my own family and for my own things, and then also be able to, we homeschool now, and so be able to teach my kids that they don't have to agree with me. That's okay. You can have your own voice. And the point is that you have to be able to be okay with it if I don't agree and still be able to, I don't know, function in our
Right.
relationship and have conversations and be open and
Yeah.
aware. I love the awareness piece of it because it is so huge. What
It
do
is
you think?
huge.
What do you think it is about entrepreneurs then that makes us continue on even when things are challenging, when it's, easier to give up and maybe go back to nursing, or if it's, a nine
Yeah.
to five, or what is it
Right.
that makes us continue on when it gets tough?
I think entrepreneurs are natural. I want to say this in a nice way for your audience. I don't know how to say it nicely, but kind of like screw the man people. Like
Mm,
they're naturally um a little bit go against the grain. Like I want to do what I want to do and no one's gonna stop me kind of people. Because you have to be, because this is really hard. Entrepreneurship is really hard. And listen, I would be lying if I told you there were not days that I was like, I think I should just throw in the towel. I think I should just wash my hands of this and go find myself a cushy nursing job where I sit on my butt all day, right? Not all nursing jobs are like that, but there are some nursing jobs out there like that. And just collect a paycheck and go home, right? Because
right.
entrepreneurship is you wear all the hats. It's all the weight is on your shoulders. You fail or succeed at your hand. You often don't have a lot of support around you, especially in the beginning when you're a startup and you haven't, been able to build a team yet. There's just, it's a lot, there's a lot of emotion. There's so much emotion involved. There's so much surrender again, because you can do all the right things, but things just may not work out the way that you envisioned or planned. It's really, really hard. So I think you have to, be in your Dharma, right? You have to be doing this thing that you feel divinely called to do. You feel so passionate about that you're like, no, I will not stop because I believe the world needs this. And I believe that I am at least one of the people that need to bring this to the world. And you need to do a lot of internal work, in my opinion, because without the internal work, I think you might throw in the towel and give up. And I think you have to have that surrender piece down, which to me personally is the absolute hardest piece. I am a worker. I could, sit there and bang out what I need to bang out for 12 hours a day, right? And just get up to like pee and get a cup of coffee, and I'm fine with it.
Yeah.
But that surrender piece of being like, ultimately, this is out of my control is for it, again, everybody's personalities are different. For me, that's a rough one. And it's one I have to keep coming back to over and over and just surrendering to the process, believing in the divine order of things, believing that things will show up when I'm ready and when the world is ready. Um, Believing in my mission,
Mm.
to serve, and coming from a place of service. And don't get me wrong, I think entrepreneurs can succeed without all of that, right? They can succeed with grit and hustle and just, nonstop working. They can, absolutely. A, it probably will feel terrible. And B, I doubt it will last because in order for it to be sustainable, you have to have those other pieces, or you will burn out. You will just crash and burn and say, oh, I can't do it anymore.
Yeah.
So that is my belief. But like I said, I do all of those things, and there are still days where I'm like, whoo, maybe I need to stop this. Right? And then I do
Right.
do one of my practices. I pull myself back to my center, and I say, okay, I can do another day, and it's always just another day, right? Everything's just one more day, one more hour, sometimes one more minute. And that's
Yeah.
all of life. That's all of life. It's just one foot in front of the other, one step at a time, while also taking some time in your life to get the global perspective, to pan out and say, you know, do I still want this? Is this still in alignment with me? Is
Mm.
this still the way I want to express my Dharma? Because Dharma is something that we are born with and we die with. It never goes away. It's the same from the first breath you take to the last breath you take. But the way in which you express it, the way that it comes out, will change over your lifetime. And so maybe the way you're in your Dharma and you were expressing it in a way that felt really good and authentic to you at that time, but now you've changed. We all change, we become different
Yeah.
people. And now when we take that global perspective, we say, I need to shift. I need to take a pivot. And this is what it now looks like for me, right? This is what my Dharma now looks like for me and how I'm going
Yeah.
to express it in this phase of my life. So it's a combination. It's really a combination.
Yeah. I love the way that you explain that. It's so funny because a lot of the a lot of the things that I use in my coaching are very, very apparently Dharma based, but I had no idea.
Amazing.
So yeah, because I talk about shifts all the time, and that's so funny. But I also love that you talk about how, sometimes it's going to expand, it's going to contract, and surrendering to that. Maybe it's a Virgo thing. I had a really hard time with that as well because I also am like, you give me a list of things, I'm going to get it done. I will
I'm
get
going
it
to check those boxes faster than
done.
anyone can check those boxes.
Exactly. I'm gonna get it. I'm gonna excel. You're gonna be so proud of me, and then
Yeah,
I'm gonna be proud of me too.
right.
But surrendering to the fact that the timeline can look drastically different than what we expect it to, or I think a big part for me was when I started building a team, realizing that sometimes those team members are not great fits and I have to
Yeah.
let them go. And that's really hard because, well, these people are now depending on me, right? And
Yes.
so that's a huge surrender. Or your business is doing great, so you hire help and then it contracts and you're like, oh, I now need to, now you can't have as much. That
Right.
was a really hard shift for me that I didn't expect when I started.
Yeah.
But diving into that, I think again, it helps you become a better leader. It helps you become a better entrepreneur, but it is difficult knowing that other people possibly might be disappointed or like you might be, the effect and the ripple of that
Yeah.
can really be difficult in
Yeah.
itself to handle. So I love that you bring that to the table and then letting that be okay, letting it shift, letting it happen, and being like, it had nothing to do with you. When it expands again, if you're still open and available, I'm happy to bring you back in.
Right, right. Yes. I mean, just constantly coming back to your own personal truth with as much integrity and empathy as you can, and kindness as you can, right? I mean, and it is really hard. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs are also highly emotional people. We're big feelers. And so allowing the feelings too, right? That's really hard. I had to let somebody go. They now don't have a paycheck because of me. Like, I don't
Yeah.
feel good about that. That's really, really hard. But it's what I had to do. It is my truth. I had to do it, but I also have to make space for the difficult emotions that come with it and allowing myself to process those and move through them.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's huge.
it is. It
It's
is.
a
It
big
is.
piece.
Yeah, and
So
it's
then,
not easy.
right? So with that, what overall takeaway or one lesson would you like other mompreneurs to be able to use from your experience specifically?
That is a tough one. Um, I would encourage any mompreneur and any mom to find a practice that brings them to their center.
Mm.
whatever that looks like. It could be meditation, it could be breath work, it could be a yoga class, it could be a walk in nature, it could be singing your heart out, right, to a really inspirational song, or dancing in your kitchen. It could be journaling. I mean, I could go on and on about the options that are out there, but to have at least one practice that brings you home, because from that place you will make all the right decisions, whether it be about your business or your children or your relationship or what your next steps are. That is where we can feel the peace. When we can reside in that peace, then we can move from that space.
I
It's
love that.
getting still to be able to move in the right direction.
Yeah. That's so powerful. Well, not only that, but so if you have a practice that does do that for you, but you haven't been doing, I got into the habit of something and then I would abandon it and not do it forever. It
Right.
would not, it didn't become a routine for a long time. I still sometimes fall out of those routines just because it's so much easier to take care of others than it is to take care of yourself.
Yeah.
But knowing that that's something you can come back to a month down the road, 2 months down the road, and start it again, and it's still just as powerful.
Yes.
I love
Yes.
that.
You can start. We were talking about expansion and contraction, right?
Yeah.
Spirituality is expansion and contraction too, right? We go through phases where we're like killing it, so to speak, air quotes, at the spirituality thing. We're meditating every day and doing our breath work and like going to yoga, and it's amazing. And then we go through periods of contraction where life does what life does. It gets what I call lifey. Life gets lifey. And sometimes those things fall off and we don't do them. But that's okay. Like there's no judgment there. There's no judgment for others. There should be no judgment on yourself. It is always available to you. It is always there. It's like I don't know, like a gentle hug or a support from, a loving friend. It is there when you are ready. So when you are ready, you come back and it will be there to hold you.
That's beautiful. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
So with that, what is the best way for others to find you if they want to be in your circle, learn more about you, maybe work with you, all of
Yes.
the things?
Yes. Okay. So Mom on the Verge podcast. You can find that anywhere podcasts can be found. My website is momontheverge.org. And you can sign up for my newsletter on the website. I have a journal you can download for free called 3 Journal Prompts to Discovering Your Dharma. I also have a mindfulness freebie that's a very, simple for those busy moms who are maybe in the early stages of learning how to be mindful and really present. So that's available. And coaching, obviously. I don't know how I'm forgetting coaching. My website, you can book a free discovery call on my website for coaching.
That's fantastic. I will obviously have the links in the description, but
Yeah.
just in case people are listening, they can still find you. Mom on the Verge. I love that title. It is
Thank you.
fantastic.
Thank you.
Uh,
Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us. Like it has been eye-opening for me. I feel like I could talk to you forever about all of this. It's
This
so
has been wonderful, Jessica. I really, really appreciate you having me. It's been such a pleasure.
it, for me as well. Probably
Yeah.
Your story is inspirational. I always like to tell everybody that your willingness to be open about it is very much appreciated and needed in this time, in this space. For those of you out there facing your own adversity, know that you're not alone. That is why we're doing what we're doing. That is the whole
Mhm.
point of this. When you need an extra hand and mind for brainstorming during your mompreneur journey, you can reach out to Mom on the Verge, but you can also reach out to Mom Elevated and join the Mom Elevated Society. We would love to have you there. You will find monthly check-ins for goal setting and assessing, and so much more for both your business and your mom life. And until next time, keep shooting for the stars.